and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil, me, and Perch, and hey, guess what? We're live.
Apparently so. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. Live from Newark and someplace in Pennsylvania. Not Pittsburgh, I just don't know the name of the city you actually live in.
No, it's Irwin.
Irwin, so live from Newark and Irwin, Pennsylvania. It's Saturday Morning Live and Super Connectivity here on the Southgate Media Group's Podcast-a-thon, second annual. Very excited to be here. Very excited to be one of our early shows on this marathon. So tonight there's really nothing going on in the world of Marvel this week, right, Phil? There's no news. There's nothing that came out recently. Can you think of anything that might be fun to talk about, or we're just going to have to shut this down in 5 minutes?
I don't know about news, but I mean, we got new episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Luke Cage hit yesterday.
Oh, yes, Luke Cage. Now, I know you got in at least episode 3. I fell asleep at episode 2 because I couldn't carry on anymore. I did not get to watch it during the day, unfortunately. But really good. So you want to start with Luke?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So starting with Luke. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you the warning right now. We are a spoiler podcast, which means that if you have not seen the first 2 to 3 episodes of Luke Cage and you do not want any reveals, then sorry.
Hang up.
Hang up right now. Or just like if you're listening to us not live but on the podcast, just like move yourself forward a bit. But by the time this comes out, this dropped yesterday. Hopefully, if you're a guy or a girl who's going to watch Luke Cage, you at least watch the first episode by now. And if not, then you're bad and you should feel bad. So Luke Cage. So first thing first, we get his name shout out. Pops calls him "Hey, Power Man," and did that just warm the cockles of your heart when he called him Power Man? I know that he's not going to go by Power Man, especially now due to the events of episode 2. But it was nice to hear the words. We also got the phrase, "I'm not for hire." As much as they're clearly working to try and get the catchphrases in there for us nerds. So we go, he said the word. I like the word. But I mean, no spoilers on this, but and not really news. Amazingly well acted, and just I love every aspect of this. The only thing I have to say is I really realized I have to get a new TV because trying to watch this on my old low definition TV, it's like the lighting in the clubs is so dark you cannot see. I mean, when I put it on last night to watch it on the TV, I had to watch it on the computer. Put it on the TV, and it's like, okay, it is an empty space I'm watching this in.
Hey, Charlie, can you see the comments? Yep. I know your audio sounds a little distorted, and Rob said you had to add a buffer or something.
Okay, I have no idea what I don't see any comments.
Okay.
I see nothing here.
Okay. Maybe if Rob or somebody can message you. Yeah, I don't know how to tell you how to do it either.
Yeah, I don't know what a buffer is. Rob, help! I'm connected via Wi-Fi. Yeah, my audio sounds fine to me. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We got something. Then we got Charlie sounds terrible. You can leave and come back in. Add a buffer on Hangout. This won't be usable for the podcast.
Oh no.
Do it. I'll give you a step-by-step. Okay, so I should hang up and call back?
I guess, yeah. I guess I'll just have to hang out here by myself.
Okay, well, you talk about whatever you want to talk about then. second. How do I hang up? Let me close this out. And there's probably push that little phone thing.
That red one, yeah. Okay. Charlie's gone now. It's just me and the world. Yeah, right. I'm probably talking to myself. Anyway, if anyone's still watching, we were talking about Luke Cage. Charlie, sorry about Charlie's audio. He's not the most tech savvy person, but Luke Cage, I really enjoyed it with every one of these, starting with the first season of Daredevil. I'm always nervous because I'm like, oh, is this going to be the one where they screw it up? And no, every time they surprise me, and it's pretty incredible because it seems like every series they're all the same, like they're all street level, but they each have their individual identities and styles. And Luke Cage is pretty awesome. I've gotten to the fourth episode. The fourth episode is a good one. Well, they're all good ones, but the fourth episode does flashbacks, and we kind of get his time in prison and how he got his powers. So that's a good one. And the ending to episode 3, you're gonna go nuts. You're gonna be like, "What is going on? That is nuts." So yeah, Marvel Netflix is bringing it again with Luke Cage. I can't wait for.
Okay, take 2.
He's back. Oh, you sound good now.
I sound good now? Yay,
yes.
Good. Okay. Should we do a re-intro?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, well, he said it wasn't usable, so we're only 4 minutes late. Okay. Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is...
Phil, me and Parrish.
Hey, Phil, so glad to have you here with us today. So glad to be here today. Hopefully it sounds good and we can use this audio, all this kind of stuff. We are a part of the Southgate Media Group's second annual podcast-a-thon. And very happy to be podcast-a-thoning with you all today. We have about an hour to fill with the news and the excitement from the wonderful world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And let's open it up with the discussions of Luke Cage. Now, for all of our listeners today, do know that this is a spoiler-filled podcast, which means if me and Phil saw it, we expect you have already saw it as well. We'll try to be a little cautious while we're speaking, but just anticipate that, yes, if we're talking, spoiler is probably going to spill out. And if you cannot abide the spoilers, then this is not the podcast for you. This is Superconnectivity, so we got to connect it all between what actually we know and then what our wild-eyed imaginations will bear out. So, opening up, we have Luke Cage working at a barbershop, which is ironic because he's bald. That's always one of those interesting questions. Is his hair diamond hard too?
Wait until episode 4. They'll address that.
Oh, they'll address the hair issue. Okay.
Episode 4 is that's as far as I got. That's the episode where we get the flashbacks to his time in prison and how he got his powers.
Very cool, very cool. So does he have to use a laser beam focused on a piece of adamantium, similar to how 1980s Superman would shave?
Unless Bick makes an adamantium razor, no, it doesn't appear.
Well, actually, I guess it would be a vibranium razor in this universe because we don't have adamantium at the moment. Curse you, Fox! Yes. So very cool. We are in this Marvel Cinematic Universe once again. And we know it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they are selling bootleg DVDs and Blu-rays of various cell phone footage of the incident. Although I guess, yeah, if you're coming to New York City as a tourist and you want that disaster porn, that's what you want, because
doesn't that seem a little creepy though? I mean, I know it's the Avengers and everything, but isn't that kind of like selling 9/11 footage?
Have you ever been to the World Trade Center?
No.
Okay, you can get a snow globe with the smoldering World Trade Center in it. Trust me.
Okay, so it's realistic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, tourists are evil people. No, honestly, when I used to come in to the World Trade Center station in New York, and you just see this line of people just taking pictures of the rubble, and it's like, dude, not cool. We live here. But hey, everyone mourns in their own way, and I get that. But yeah, no, absolutely, they would be selling DVDs of something like that. Yeah, on Blu-ray too. Best high definition footage that the guy could find, as he said. We do get a shout out to those guys downtown because, of course, Pops. Very very early on, we do get. There's no mystery about Luke Cage's powers, which really there shouldn't be, because of course we saw it in the last episode, and or the last series. We knew he had powers. We knew where he was, so it's not really hidden. But it's actually, I thought it was very interesting how casual he was with his powers. Whereas a lot of people are like trying not to show their powers. He's like lifting up the washing machines. He's showing off. I mean, he's not doing it in front of everybody. He's only doing it in front of Pops. But, still, you do see that there is this casualness about his powers. Pops does refer to him as Power Man, which, to me, is just the most awesome aspect of everything. That we got, first episode, we get the Power Man shout out, I'm sure this is going to be one of these things like... sort of like the your Iron Man's bodyguard, or your Tony Stark's bodyguard cover story, where Tony Stark immediately throws out, says that's stupid. From the first Iron Man. I get that, and that I'm sure he's going to come back to that later if it ever gets said again. That someone says, "Oh, that's Power Man." And he's like, "Don't call me that. I'm Luke Cage. I'm not Power Man." So this Pops is apparently, from what I could follow so far, that Pops is Luke Cage's passed away wife's father.
I don't know, because later on he says he doesn't call him father-in-law. All he says is he said that Pops is Reva's people. He called them her people, but I don't know.
He referred to it as his daughter. Well, I mean, Pops referred to Reva as his daughter, and maybe it's sort of a surrogate father thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% certain. And really, the storyline. Spoilers for episode 2. You ready? Because there's a big spoiler, kids.
Oh, I saw it. Go ahead, yeah.
No. I'm talking to millions of fans out there in podcast land.
We gave them plenty of warning.
Yeah. Pops does not make it to episode 3.
No.
And like, of all the people to not make it to episode 3, it's like, really?
I know, that seemed quick.
Yeah, especially because the other kid makes it. He's all hospitalized. It's like, well, how is Pops the guy that Oh,
well, he's Bruce Wayne's dead parents in the alley.
Yeah. He is Luke Cage's Uncle Ben. Although by that point, Luke was already like, yes, a great power and great responsibility. It's cool. I'm gonna, because just prior to that, he beats the heck out of the Shakedown thugs at Genghis Khan's, which is the best name for a Chinese food restaurant I've ever heard. Genghis Khan's, and it is great, especially with the fourth thug who's like, I don't even know these guys. And I do wonder if it is possible to actually hit someone so hard you actually give yourself a compound fracture. That seemed a little unbelievable, unless he was a little enhanced too, but not his bones,
Well, if you're swinging full force and you're not expecting to hit like a brick wall. Yeah.
No, yeah. Well, no, I can see totally breaking your hand, but you actually see that his bone pops out. He's got like a whole Jeff Goldblum's arm wrestling scene in The Fly thing going on there, where it's like, it's a compound fracture. Now, and I always wondered that about that scene in The Fly too. Is like, could you really would the leverage on that really work that you'd get that compound fracture, because it seems like it's much more likely that you're just going to put the guy's arm through the table. I don't know if your muscles can actually break your own bones, but what do I know? I'm not
the laws of physics always get funky around, superhumans and their powers.
Yeah, this is true too. Okay, so and of course after Luke Cage dispatches the thugs, his landlady goes to give him money and she says, "We want to hire you," and he says, what does he say, Phil?
I forget the exact words. He said, he says, "I'm not doing something like he's not doing this for pay, but he's not. No. Oh, I got it. He's not for hire."
Yes.
He's like, "But I got you."
Yes. He's a hero, but not for hire. Not yet, anyway.
Another Easter egg.
Yes, exactly, and that's beautiful. You gotta love that.
Oh man, wait until episode 4. You think that's good when he's in the tank getting his powers? He has the tiara. He has the things on his arms, and then big spoiler alert: when he escapes, like he has to get clothes. He puts on the yellow shirt for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. I love the yellow shirt. I was very upset they don't even have him in a yellow T-shirt in this. It's actually just it looks yellow at times because you have the sodium lamps in the city. But
hey, we're not done with this. We're not done with the series yet. He might.
I know. I want this guy full pirate shirt, just like we got the red costume at the end. I want full pirate shirt and cavalier boots.
It's like Seinfeld. I don't want to be a pirate.
Yes, you have to be a pirate. We want a pirate, Luke Cage. Yes. So, So that is, so to give you the basic plot, don't call him Cottonmouth. Was it Cornell? Cornell is,
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Cornell. I can't remember what his last name is, but he's cousin to Black Mariah, who in this incarnation is a councilwoman. Not a pimp, and also not like superhumanly fat, because that was like in her very first carnation she was also like had that superhuman fat power where she would sit on people. I read it online, man. I don't make this stuff up, but yeah, but she's a much more enjoyable character in this incarnation, and of course she got better when we got the more recent Power Man and Iron Fist series as well. She was better there. But so she's a cousin to Cornell. Cottonmouth is sort of like trying to become the new Kingpin. Why anyone would want to be the new Kingpin when things went so well for the old Kingpin, no one is quite sure, but that's what he's trying for. And of course he makes a deal with a local Cuban gang that immediately goes south.
Oh yeah.
And then we get basically Diamondback, who I guess is the actual Kingpin, or the guy who's currently he's the guy above Cottonmouth, which, I don't know if these guys wind up in the Serpent Society eventually, but
that would be awesome.
Yeah, but here's what I'm going to say. I mean, I know it's not, but, like right now, knowing nothing, if I knew nothing about the series, oh man, I hope Diamondback's a girl in a pink leotard.
I had that thought too. I was like, oh.
But it's a different Diamondback, and it's a different Diamondback from the comics. Yeah, and I have seen the stills of who it is. It is a African American male. So it's not that Diamondback, but it is a Diamondback. And Diamondback sends his right-hand man Shades, who I believe has laser eyes. I haven't seen laser eyes yet, but I believe in the comics he has laser eyes, and I'm just waiting for that to show up, because that's like you're waiting for him to just I'm enhanced too, because I'm guessing he was in the same program as Luke Cage, and there must be some sort of a randomization factor in the power sets you get. Luke Cage gets to be diamond hard skin, and this guy for reasons gets laser eyes. Works for me.
Sure you're not thinking of Cyclops.
Yeah, no. I was reading because I was reading about shades, and I don't know. It looked from what I read on that he had. I didn't actually read like a Wikipedia entry on him, but I believe in the photographs he has like powers coming out of his eyes, so that's why he wears the glasses. Comes in handy. I don't know. I can't say that for certain, but that's my guess right now. And honestly, when you see him come in and he's got the sunglasses, again, just coming in blind, you're going to say, oh, that guy totally has laser eyes, Because it's like, oh, here's this guy always wearing glasses. And then the first time he lifts them up, he's like, he's going to shoot you with his laser eyes because you're just so used to this. This is a comic book thing. Someone's got to have laser eyes. That's my take on it. I don't know.
I don't know. So far, I think the only person we've seen with powers is Luke Cage. But although someone does take a big shot at him at the end of episode 3. So
okay, well,
but no powers.
Well, we're gonna have to see what happens. Yeah, well, we had that Justin Hammer shout out, the Hammer Tech weapons, which was cool. Nice to see Justin Hammer still working, man. That guy, you can't. He's a CEO with a super suit. What part of that makes you think he's arrestable?
Well, honestly, the company's still there. We don't know that Justin Hammer's still CEO.
Yeah, but this is the Marvel universe. It's full of evil people. I mean,
his defense in court was, well, Tony Stark gets away with this crap.
Yeah, well, not for nothing. And honestly, to me, that's like the greatest sorrow to me that Gary Shandling passed away, because I totally wanted Senator Stern to just beat the Hydra rap. Just get overwhelmingly. I wanted Senator Stern running for president in Civil War.
Yeah. Captain America: Winter Soldier was on, I think, last weekend, and I saw Gary Shandling. I was like, oh, he's not coming back.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna. But I feel that if Gary Shandling had stuck around, his character would have beaten that rap, because he's a politician. When has a politician ever been taken down by scandal? Really? Really? I mean, I really think historically, the only time a politician gets taken down by a scandal, as we've seen from Donald Trump, is that it's because you give up. If you just keep on talking, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess he's not going to just resign. You can't, if you can't be shamed into resigning, you just keep on going. And
well, I guess Trump should have had a talk with Anthony Weiner.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you didn't resign, if you just said no, I don't care. I did it. I didn't do it. Fine, I'm going forward. I got my own stuff to do. Because at the end of the day, I think politics gets kind of weird in that way, that people like who they like, especially if you're an elected politician. And if you're the guy who's being accused of being part of the multinational evil corporation or evil organization, that just reeks of conspiracy to start with. So I think people are going to be like, oh, that's just conspiracy theory. You just believe everything the Daily Bugle tells you. No. That's why I get all my news from the National Register, the only paper you can trust.
Is that still in business?
Oh, I hope so. Only in Universal Studios films.
Universe.
Yeah, well, no, because that's why the Jack McGee files never got out there, because I think he's owned by Universal Studios. Marvel doesn't actually own him. That's my theory, because he was created for the show. So, Jack McGee, for you young kids, was a character on the Incredible Hulk TV series from the 1970s and 80s, and he played sort of the General Ross role of the guy hunting the Hulk, except he's not General Ross; he's a news reporter, and that was cool.
And he doesn't know Banner's the Hulk. He just knows someone transforms into the Hulk.
Now he knows that. I got to think eventually he's going to figure this out. I mean, or maybe he's just not that good of a reporter. Like I said, he just is a guy who falls bass backwards into great stories, and that's why everyone thinks he's a great reporter. But really, it's just random chance. Be sure to catch up on what we're talking about by listening to the Gamma Cast on the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel, only on Southgate Media. So what else is there in Luke Cage that we've seen so far?
What did you think of Misty Knight?
Oh, okay, yes, okay. I have to mention this. You ever see the film Hot Tub Time Machine?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So at the beginning of Hot Tub Time Machine, there is this character who has lost his arm. Okay. Or lost his hand. He's like the handyman there. And when they go back in time, I'm trying to remember who plays him. I'm torn in my brain because part of my brain is saying it was Chris Elliott who played that character, and the other part of my brain says it was the guy who played the father from Back to the Future. Crispin
Glover. Yeah.
I want to say it's one of those two guys. I really think it was Crispin Glover because he was very creepy and he does creepy. But Chris Elliott does actually pretty good creepy too. So it's like, but in my brain there's like, I don't know which universe I came from, the one where Chris Elliott was cast or the one where Crispin Glover was cast. But, that's that whole, Berenstain Bear theory. It's like, what universe would you originate from that
it's the Mandela effect.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, so I'm going to go with Crispin Glover. Here. I could pull up the IMDb, but I'm using my computer for something else right now. So Crispin Glover's character loses his hand. But you're waiting to find out how he lost his hand. So all throughout the episode, all throughout the movie, when they're back in time, he comes like really close to losing his hand, but he never does. And of course, and that's how you feel about Misty Knight, because she's going to lose that arm. That arm is going away. Okay, spoilers, kids. If you don't know who Misty Knight is and don't know what happens to her arm, I'm sorry. Although, hey, maybe by the final episode we get a Tony Stark cameo. I have no idea where she got that arm. Or hey, maybe Justin Hammer. It's a Hammer arm. So every time I see Misty Knight there, I'm just thinking, when's she going to lose that arm? How does she lose the arm? Why does she have an arm? It's pretty cool there.
Why does she have an arm?
Well, but that's the thing. I actually never knew. I never read a comic book before she lost her arm. I've only known her as the woman with the robot arm, so it's like,
same here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure there were ones, and I'm sure there's an origin story of how she lost the arm and how she got the robot arm, but I don't know it, not off the top of my head. So, viewer fans, write in, tell us how Misty Knight lost her arm, and we will send you something because we're cool like that. We got tons of old comic books that we're happy to send off to you.
Not a ton, but yeah.
Well, we'll send you something. We like to have interactions with our fans because you fans, you're what make this all worthwhile.
Oh yeah, we even had that email from last week we didn't read from Stockton Piner.
Oh, Stockton, yes, Stockton. Well, we might read it at the end of the show if we have some time because we do love you, Stockton. We haven't forgotten about you. We did receive your email. We just have not gotten the chance to read it because things have been hectic. How many comic books did we have this week on the roundup? We had like,
I had like
12. I had 10. I had 10. You had 12, and
yeah, we had 5 together. So
that's like 2 plus 6 plus 5. So that's only 11 books. That doesn't sound right. It seems like more.
No. There's probably. Well, we had 5 together. I had 7. I had like 7 on my own. You had 5.
Oh yeah, that's right. You had 7 on your own. I had that sounds about right. Yeah.
So like 19 maybe?
Yes, we had a lot of books. So
Yeah.
And it's just been crazy with Marvel. Marvel just likes to put out books. Marvel wants us to buy lots of books, and that's fine. Marvel, we like buying your books. No more annuals until you start tying in Serpent Crown events to the annuals. We're not buying the annuals. We're done. Okay, let's move on to, unless you want to talk about comic books for a minute before we move on to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., our other big story?
It's up to you. I mean, we can do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, let's hop into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, the most recent episode, Meet the New Boss, have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay. So, this was great, of course. Now, we've already introduced mysticism, but we got I'm not sure what was the bigger shout out. The Darkhold, or the Darkhold is actually pretty amazing that they actually brought the Darkhold into this. And to me, it's, as I've said, I really think that there is getting a lot more. I think that, and I think this is what kind of killed Agent Carter a little bit, was that because the last season in Agent Carter was right in the middle of the big Perlmutter Feige feud, you know, and the movies weren't letting the TV shows have anything, and everyone had to be all separate because they were in this boxing match. I really feel that since Feige has his spot, I mean, I've not even heard anything about Perlmutter. It's only Loeb. I hear Loeb runs TV, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah. Loeb is running TV. Feige is running the movies, but it seems like they have a much better relationship, and I think that's reflected in this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we're getting the Darkhold shout out, and we're even getting. I mean, I don't know. They didn't really say it, but you definitely get the feeling that our ghost creatures are related to the dark matter reactor from Peggy Carter. You know, so I think that there is going to be a zero matter thing. They even got a shout out to Peggy Carter in this episode when Phil is saying, you know, everyone knows the legend of Peggy Carter. What people don't know is how much of her history wasn't recorded. And, you know, I do think that that's, like I said, that to me, that because I do want to talk about Haley Atwell talking about let's have a Agent Carter movie, because I do think that's a really great idea, and I'd like to talk about that in a minute. But you know, the idea of Peggy Carter as the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first Nick Fury, and I think that's how she should be presented. You know, she's the leader of the Howling Commandos. She's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really think presenting her as this woman on the wall historically is really the best way to present it. Like if you wanted to do a Peggy Carter film, that's what you do. You have her follow that path from, you know, maybe slightly noble 1940s hero to completely cynical and, you know, duplicitous Nick Fury type, you know? You know, you think about when Kat comes back and she's lying in bed and she's all, you know, slightly senile and whatnot, or maybe that's just how she's playing it. You know, Cap is, oh, I missed you, Peggy, my best girl, I love you. But he has no idea all the crazy stuff that she and Gabe and Zola were doing for the last 60 years, you know? Because, you know, Zola's there, Peggy's there. I really got to feel that, you know, she was aware of the Hydra infiltration on some level and maybe just sort of gave it a tacit thing because maybe it got into a whole thing where it's like, look, what you thought was Hydra, that Red Skull Hydra, that's not Hydra. Hydra's this much older thing with this quasi-mystical history. But we want to make the world safe and we want to make the world better. Not saying we want to bring back, you know, Squidward, you know. But Ward wasn't even a character yet. So, yeah. So, but I do think that idea of Peggy Carter being down in the muck of it, being the woman with all the secrets. I think that's how you play an Agent Carter film. And I would really love to see them do that. Like if they're going to do an Agent Carter film or do anything with Agent Carter, that's how you do it. You put her as Nick Fury. You put her as the woman with all the secrets. You put her as the spy who knows everything, you know? The person who knows too much to let live and who knows too much to kill, you know? You can't kill her. All you can do is try to have her be on your side. And that is who Peggy Carter should be in if they ever do anything more with Peggy Carter. So, but I definitely think, I definitely think we're going to get some callbacks by the end of this. I think we're going to get callbacks to a Whitney Frost and the dark matter reactor or the zero matter reactor from the early Peggy Carter or the Peggy Carter episodes from last season. Because I mean, when you see the ghost characters, they very much look like that Doctor looked like. Although, but it was very interesting to see, of course, Ghost Rider come in and burn up a ghost, which is kind of weird on so many levels, you know. But very cool to see too. And then, of course, our big reveal. What was, you know, on top of all that, we get the fact that Jeff, our new boss at S.H.I.E.L.D., is an Inhuman with superhuman strength. And he's an Inhuman people can trust. which makes me wonder what his background is, you know, or an enhanced person people can trust. And I don't know how that breaks down. I don't know what they're going to have for him. Like I said, right now, because I am on this Squadron Supreme kick, I want to say he's going to be Hyperion. Hyperion, throughout his many incarnations, has had a lot of different origins. So making him an Inhuman in this is not impossible.
Or what if your theory? Remember, you said maybe they were going to make a Squadron Supreme out of the LMDs. What if he is an LMD and he's just telling them so they don't know his true origin that he's an Inhuman?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because that's something they know, but so they don't want them to know about the LMD. So it's like, just tell them you're an Inhuman.
Yeah. Here I'll give you one even slightly more interesting. What if he's the original Human Torch?
Oh,
we do. This was another thing I was thinking about when we get back to that Peggy Carter. We saw the artificial human, which is the basis for LMD technology, at the Stark Expo in 1940 whatever, and we see in Captain America he's always in Europe, but there was a whole other theater. And one of the things about the other theater, in the South Pacific Theater, is it's in the South Pacific. Who else does a lot of work out in the ocean?
Namor.
Yes, and the idea of having a Namor and a Jim Hammond in a 1940s based storyline, with Peggy Carter when we're building out stuff, that would be pretty awesome. So that's your other thing you could do with Peggy Carter. You can put her in a Namor Jim Hammond film, and of course he's an android, so he's around forever. I do think, since he said I prefer the term Inhuman, suggests that yes, he is an Inhuman. I don't think he's going to be an LMD. But it's a real possibility. Right now, the only power we know he has is mega strength and some invulnerability. But that's pretty cool. But based on mega strength and some invulnerability, our thoughts immediately go to. For me, my thought goes to Hyperion. But obviously, there's a lot of people with just enhanced strength. Although it's an interesting power set, and I do wonder if there's more to it. I wonder what other powers he has. And if Hyperion is a character in this universe, if he is another hero, then, that would explain why people trust him. I guess your other options would be he's some sort of patriotic hero like Spirit of 76. Oh, Jeff Mace. Yes. That fits to Jeff, and so that's a character they could do. Jeff Mace was not enhanced in any way in the original. Jeff Mace was the Spirit of 76, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Was he the Patriot?
He was one of them. Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so you have that idea, and maybe he's an Inhuman from 1940s, and he just doesn't age. Like there's a lot of ways you could present him as this guy. So that's an interesting theory. Is the director Jeff Mace? And they're going to rewrite his origin that he is an enhanced Inhuman character, perhaps one of the Inhumans from the old group, who has just been around and used his powers for good for a long time. He definitely has that gentle demeanor of a character from the 40s, although you also see that he also has that real dark aspect of him with, you don't need to know that, Phil. Not you, Phil, but the other Phil.
Yeah, Coulson, yeah.
Yes, we have top men on it, Phil. Top men. Yeah, so I really think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is off to a great start. And I really think that this is the season for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that it's really all going to come together. This is really going to be presented as the strong aspect of the Marvel television universe, because now that they've moved to the 10 o'clock hour, and this is the thing I always say, like when they were at 9 o'clock, that was 8 o'clock Central, which means that's still prime family viewing time. You had to be a lot more careful. Now they're at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Central. You can do so much more. Now this is a show that can be out there, can be in the, can really cross the line, can really do things that people just aren't used to seeing in a in a Marvel television series unless you watch Netflix. And I definitely think we're going to be getting a lot more interaction between the Netflix characters and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters. And apparently, like I said, it was very interesting when Pops and Luke Cage referred to those guys downtown, strongly implying that there's more than what we've seen. I guess that also probably includes Peter Parker. So you have Daredevil, and then you also have that other guy downtown, Spider-Man, because of course, he's in Queens, although he does a lot of work downtown too. But
how well known is Spider-Man at this point, though?
Well, this is after Civil War, I believe. I believe they've said that the timelines that you see are contemporaneous. Mm-hmm. So that, like, when Doctor Strange comes out next month, it's after the events of Civil War.
Oh yeah.
So Doctor Strange is coming into the world at the point of post Civil War, presumably with Jeff Mace now as the director. We're just going to say, mark our words, that's Jeff Mace. Mm-hmm. He's coming into that world. Mm-hmm. Now, it will be interesting if Sam Jackson does come back, because, again, we do have this very interesting concept of the two shields again, because, as Jeff was saying to Coulson, the only thing I don't have is that unlimited anonymous funding you had. So I've actually got to, this all has to be in the books. And one does wonder, where did he get all that funding? Except, of course, it was all a bunch of old Black Book accounts from when S.H.I.E.L.D. was Hydra. Yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. is so corrupt. It really, it always has been. It always will.
Oh, yeah.
S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, they're just two sides of the same coin of a currency that no longer has value. To quote Von Strucker. So it's interesting the way they're setting up the new S.H.I.E.L.D., although one wonders if there's going to be that Nick Fury, who apparently still has access to some hidden funds somewhere in secret safe houses, and because that's what Nick Fury does. Inherited. Yeah.
Can I just mention how weird it is? Like Civil War, well, at the end of Civil War, it seemed like Nick Fury had no resources left, but in Age of Ultron, he's like, oh yeah, look, I have a helicarrier I just pulled out of mothballs. It's like, okay.
I mean, at the end of Winter Soldier.
Yes.
The end of Winter Soldier. I don't know. I didn't think he had no resources left. What I saw was him burning his locker where he kept all of his stuff because he wanted to get rid of his, he wanted to get rid of his I guess footprint. Didn't want to leave it behind anything that someone could track him by. Okay. I don't know if that really worked, except it made for a great visual. That was, I think, the whole point of it, was that it made a great visual. But no, everything about that made me think that, no, he still had lots of assets and lots of resources.
Okay. Yeah. It's probably,
he had all the old resources still out in mothballs because he knew where all the things were buried, and he knew the stuff Hydra couldn't find. Because I think that was sort of the implication in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and again in everything else, especially in Winter Soldier, that as much as Hydra had infiltrated, Nick Fury knew he had to be one step ahead of whatever was going on in the community. That's why he had a double secret protocol. That even though he had been wiped, he couldn't wipe all of Nick Fury from the system, and he still had control of all the systems. Mm-hmm. So one imagines that he still had control of a lot of things. And, you had Coulson's black box that had all of the data that that was Nick Fury's private data,
mm-hmm.
wasn't in the servers, wasn't what got dumped on the internet by Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, at the end of Winter Soldier. It's always interesting when you say all of those secrets are dumped, but clearly there were a lot of other secrets that didn't get dumped. You know, there's clearly a lot of stuff that wasn't in those files. You know, although there apparently was a lot about enhanced creatures, because we do have that people now know what a Man-Thing is, you know?
Yeah.
Man-Thing got that shit. You know, ever since Maria Hill shouted out to Man-Thing, everyone wants Man-Thing back, you know? Because who doesn't want Man-Thing? Man-Thing is awesome. You want Man-Thing. Don't act like you don't want Man-Thing, Phil.
Okay.
Everyone wants Man-Thing. I want Ghost Rider versus Man-Thing with Damon Hellstrom showing up, and then it's Patsy. She really wants to be your friend. Because she's gonna be the Hellcat. She's got to be the Hellcat, man. That's the whole thing.
See, we have to do video every week. You're a song and dance man. I didn't know that.
Oh. Yeah, except now I have to wear clothes. Ugh, you know. So oppressive. Just because you people can't handle a little naturalness.
I thought you were going to say a little man thing.
Oh, it's not little.
Okay, Lil.
Okay, moving right along. Yeah, I usually don't go for the pants, but you know, yeah, you give me that setup, I gotta hit it out of the park. It's like you put the meatball right over the plate. What am I supposed to do? Okay, moving right along. Let's talk about Doctor Strange.
All right.
Now that is coming out next month in November, just in time for Thanksgiving. Well, before Thanksgiving, but very shortly it's going to be out, and we now have two Marvel Universe storylines in the same contiguous universe that are ongoing concurrent to it. One of which, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is very doubling down on mysticism. I don't know if we're going to get any mysticism in Luke Cage, although we may get something. Mm-hmm. Because we are definitely, this was an interesting point. I recently discovered that there's apparently something called WHIH, and I have to actually look up more of these, but they're basically in-universe news broadcasts from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and these are produced by Marvel, so it's all canon, Mm-hmm. And so they interview people about like what the Sokovia Accords are and this and that, and they actually have a scrolling news feed. And one thing that everyone shouted out about was that they recently mentioned Doctor Strange, that Dr. Stephen Strange as a surgeon was going to be on next segment, which we never got. But in the next segment, Dr. Strange comes on to talk about his new breakthroughs and how it'll change people's lives. But what I thought was very interesting in that same scroll, they reference the finding of Dr. Erskine's notebooks in Jersey. Now, of course, we do know that the Hydra base was in Jersey, which was also the Operation Rebirth base. And, of course, it wasn't Erskine's old notebook. It was actually a spy's old notebook, but that's where William Burnside got his super soldier serum. So I do wonder if that's going to be coming back at some point, this rediscovery of the original super soldier serum, or at least a portion of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm thinking either since Steve gave up the role of Captain America in Civil War, mm-hmm. Somebody creates a super soldier serum that's defective, that maybe they're trying to create a new Captain America, but he goes crazy after a while. So I'm thinking either William Burnside or John Walker. Yeah, or, as we've already seen, Frank Simpson. Oh, yes. Nuke.
Because we already know that super soldier program is out and is active. And we have discussed, like, wouldn't it be great that they get there and we actually get to see, we're going to see John Walker in that same program, and maybe even D-Man, Demolition Duffy.
Battlestar.
Battlestar, yes, we definitely need Battlestar. We need Battlestar in this. We need all these guys. And honestly, there's some great possible characters that we can get into these things once we start opening it up. But actually, it was very interesting to me. It's always been interesting to me, the idea of the mind-body superhero connection. We got that with Mike Peterson, where, you know, it was like, if I'm good enough, I can get these powers, I can be strong. We see that with Erskine talking to Steve Rogers in the first Avenger about how, you know, it is about who you are inside that informs the powers you get. Now, of course, this is all totally stolen from the 1980 Swamp Thing movie, where, you know, they say that, you know, it just enhances what you already have. And, of course, the villain says, well, what if the nature was brilliance and perfection? Because, of course, he's an egoist. And it's like, and, of course, he turns into a big wild boar man. It's like, yeah. Think too highly of yourself. That never works out well for you. But it is interesting. But now in Doctor Strange, like I said, so we've gotten the shout out to the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've got Mephisto suggested is going to show up at some point in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We also have it suggested that the Punisher is showing up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So this is all about this connection between Netflix, and I do think this is going to be related up onto what we're going to see in Doctor Strange. I think that idea of the dark dimension, zero matter, it's going to get. I think you're going to get all these teasers in our local shows, in our television shows, and then we're going to get a big reveal in November of what these things are. And I think that if we get a Mephisto or something implied about Mephisto in Doctor Strange, I think that then we're going to be starting to see that flowing right back down into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I do think that that's what we're looking at. It is a very it's a very interesting thing. I mean, I guess there's not too much to say about Doctor Strange that we haven't already said. Doctor Strange, right now, it's just all over but the shouting. You know, we want to get to Doctor Strange.
Well, yeah, two things. I wonder if there'll be a mention of Ghost Rider on in Doctor Strange. And you know, because if the Supernatural and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, so there might be references back and forth. But also, where else is Doctor Strange showing up, Charlie? Maybe?
Oh, is he going to be?
Well, they're talking about Thor Ragnarok, aren't they?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, yes. So he may be in Ragnarok. He has been confirmed for Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we know that.
Although I didn't think they needed. I thought that it had been said before that everyone was going to be in Infinity War. Well, at least the cinematic ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what they've said is that they've said, you know, they've had to backtrack because everyone says, oh, everyone's going to be there. Is Daredevil going to be in there? And they had to and they have to backtrack in somewhat because they don't want to spoil it. They don't want, you know, they want you to be surprised when you get Luke Cage showing up. Yeah. They want you to be surprised when Jen Walters show up, and they're like, "What? Who's this?" You know? Oh, we need Jen Walters. She needs to show up somewhere around here. We need a good lawyer in the Marvel Universe. I think that's one thing we can all agree on.
Did they say anything? I'm trying to remember. Probably not, but is it confirmed that Captain Marvel is going to be in Infinity War?
No, nothing is confirmed yet. Although, what they said, the Russo brothers, who are the ones directing it, when it came out, they said, "Oh yes, we're really looking forward to working with her," which made everyone go, "Oh, she must be in Infinity War." And you know, they didn't say that. They said they were looking forward to working with her. So it's not confirmed that she's in it. And I think Infinity War is still in the scripting stage. So there's probably a lot of characters that are currently written who are not necessarily going to be in there. Because what happens is, especially if you have a character who hasn't had an origin yet, everything gets top heavy, you know? And so you have too many characters, and then you can't really develop anyone. And so you have to pare it back. So, you know, I think in all of these movies, they have more characters in the original drafts of the script than you actually wind up with when you get to the final thing. And of course, and I think they write it without necessarily worrying too much about the rights. And then Marvel's lawyers go through, okay, we can't use him. They we can use, and then they'll say, well, okay, we can't use that one. Can we use this one? They go, okay, yeah, that's a possibility. And probably the lawyers make the suggestions because they probably are big nerd lawyers who have the long boxes of books saying, well, you know, you can't use the Skrulls, but we can still use the Chitauri. So have the Chitauri invade, and that'll work out perfectly. You know, it's a possibility. Okay. what else is going on in the? I'm trying to think what else we have out there. Because there's always stuff we're forgetting, and there's always stuff that we're gonna say, oh, we should have talked about that. Well, here, okay, let's talk about this real quick because we only have about 8 minutes left before we're gonna get kicked off, I think. There was a nice article in Vanity Fair about just the Marvel really stepping up on their diversity. And they had the big photo. You have the TV Luke Cage in the middle. Then you have all the new comic book. You have Moon Girl. You have Riri, and I'm trying to remember who else was on there. But you do have. Marvel really does have a nice wide swath of diversity in its next generation characters, from South Asians, from East Asians, African Americans. Of course, Wakandans. Always got to have your Wakandans in there. Black Panther movie is coming out too, and it's an interesting question when we discuss the diversity in comics because yes, we have more female characters in Marvel right now. Marvel is definitely taking all their old line characters, making them into new line characters. Where we're getting. We have Miles Morales, we have Sam Wilson as Cap, we have, all these, and then we have all the ones that we've always had that are now getting made more prominent, like Black Panther, like Storm. Well, Storm has always been prominent, and I don't think Storm's going away anywhere anytime soon. She is probably the closest thing that Marvel has to a Wonder Woman, and that's pretty awesome. Because I think as awesome characters go, Storm is right up there. Even though her origin gets very muddled because they've retold it like 16 times. She's a goddess. No, she was a street urchin. Stop, you're both right. I don't know. Yeah, but Marvel is definitely moving towards that diversity, but then you still have Peter Parker as your guy. No one has gotten rid of Iron Man, and now we have infamous Iron Man coming up, who is also a white dude. And of course, Thor is coming back too. So, and of course, Steve Rogers hasn't gone everywhere, even though he is Hydra now. It's an interesting question. Is Marvel just putting all these people out there, but still hedging its bets because they still have all their old white male characters that they can pull out and say, no, we were just kidding. Here's all the white men back. Or do you really think Marvel is committed to this diversity idea of having a Marvel Comics universe that looks like the real human universe?
Well, we've had this conversation before. Marvel's trying to diversify its characters. Now it seems like there's two versions of each character. But meanwhile, DC Comics is kind of going back to basics with their characters, and right now they're dominating the sales charts.
Yeah. But of course, as I've always said, that goes to that basic business model conflict, which is that DC and Warner Brothers are still in the business of making movies and selling comic books. Marvel and Disney aren't in the business of selling comic books or movies. They want people to buy their comic books. They want people to go to their movies. But the real money is in the ancillaries.
Yeah. Well, like I was having a conversation with Lilith yesterday. I think it was yesterday. The whole thing, let's just focus on the comic books. Since DC is dominating comic-wise over Marvel, does that mean it's just us long-term fans picking up the comics? It's not a lot of newer fans. All the newer fans are over like watching the movies, watching the TV shows, including Netflix and all that, and the comics aren't bringing in as many new fans as all the other media is.
That's a possibility. That could be very much what it is. You could be seeing, that last gasp of white male nerddom. Or it could just be that DC is writing better books, and
or
it doesn't really.
Or is it too like the last gasp of like, even though it's digital now also, is it like the last gasp of print media? People would rather watch the movies and TV shows rather than the printed page.
That's certainly a possibility. From what we both know is that, if you're a young kid getting into comic books right now, you're not getting into comic books right now. or if you are getting into comic books, you are getting into DC, who is holding the line at $2.99. That difference between a $2.99 book and a $3.99 book, when you're buying 4 books, is a lot. When you're buying 5 books, it's even more.
Especially if you're a kid, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do think that the basic comic book audience has aged, and I think that maybe, I think what Marvel might be looking at, what Disney Marvel might be looking at, is this idea of how do we maintain interest in our properties beyond the comic books? Because if your main comic book audience is older long-term fans, and you're not getting the new young kids dropping their pennies to buy a comic book, are you really planning for the future? And I think maybe Marvel and Disney are planning for the future on this idea, and they say, look, we just need to have these characters, because we're going to be putting these characters in the movies, we're going to be putting these characters in the cartoons and the TV shows, and we want these kids to identify with these people. We want kids to see heroes who look like them, so they can then go buy the T-shirts, because like I say, it is all about T-shirts and comic books and lunchboxes. This is what the money maker is, and I think that in that sense, focusing on sales are not that important. Although what one could say is that when Marvel first started introducing all the new versions, they actually did dominate the sales. I mean, Kamala Khan was a sales force. The new Black Panther definitely was huge, and of course, Jane Foster Thor just completely demolished the box office. So the diversity is working, the diversity is selling, but usually when it's tied to really well-written stories. I do think that maybe DC is writing much better stories than they have been in the past. Mostly because they're rehashing old Marvel stories, and DC fans just aren't that smart.
Shots fired.
Oh, I'm joking. Like I said, I love the new Superman books. I really do enjoy Superman, both the new Superman and the old Superman put into the new universe thing. So yeah, there are DC books that are really good out there, and I've always tried to get at least 1 or 2 DC books when I could. So I'm very proud that they are dominating the sales force. I do wonder.
It's DC calling.
Yeah. Oh, I wish. I would write DC, man. I would write any of it.
Sell out.
Yeah. Well, you read both, but I would love to write for Archie Comics. I would love to write for Red Circle. I mean, there are so many good books out there right now that, I mean, if you want to write comic books, it's still an impossible business to break into, but there's so much better places to work now. And that's one of the things that I think is most interesting about DC right now is DC is locking up writers. They're getting all these exclusive deals with these name writers. And we don't see Marvel doing the same thing. I do find that an interesting model. DC trying to basically snatch up good name writers for their books, and Marvel saying, no, we'll just take we'll take the next talent. And again, if Marvel is moving towards that greater diversity, that may be a part of it. Is Marvel might be saying, we don't need to sign up all of these, name white male writers. We want to bring in the next generation. Although DC is now expanding their diversity, and DC has their own MacArthur Grant winner now too. So the arms race is on. Okay, Phil. I think we've had our hour. I don't know if the next team is coming up, but why don't we start off with our social media, and then if Rob wants us to keep on going, we'll keep on going on the next subject. So give me your social media, Phil. Where can they reach out to you if they would like to yell at you about having to listen to me every week? And it's like, oh, we're so glad you're free of that Gamma cast, because you were wasted there. How can they reach out to you, Phil?
If you want to talk to me about anything Marvel, DC, or the glory of Charlie Esser, you can always email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. I'll probably be live tweeting all the live DC shows like Gotham, Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow. So check me out there. I'll be back at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central to do this week's Before the Bat with my co-host. So come back and check that out. And let's hear from the great Charlie Esser. Where can the world talk to you, Charlie?
Ladies and gentlemen of my vast listening audience, if you would like to pick the brain of Charlie the Professor Esser, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way by writing to superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. You can also tweet at me and tweet along with me as I live tweet various things that I do on occasion, including the Incredible Hulk, Saturdays at 7 p.m. on occasion, as part of my GammaCast promotion. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Okay. I guess, Rob, do you want us to keep on going? Are you there? Yeah. I'm not sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we're gonna scat for a minute, but if not, here's thank you for connecting with us, folks, and please connect with us again next week, and we'll see what happens next. We'll see who's coming on next. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning too. Yes, depending on when you're listening, because you could be riding on the train and on your way to work. Okay. So
trying to find the schedule here.
Let's see. Oh, we got messages. Oh, that's just you guys saying that my sound was better.
Yeah, I was just asking before.
Yeah.
But that Luke Cage is so good.
Yeah, it is, and like I said, I'm really pleased with what we're seeing in. That's the thing. Like I said, I'm not that worried about DC dominating the sales. I mean, it's nice when Marvel dominated the sales, and they did dominate for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's, and this is the thing. It's like, well, people say, well, Suicide Squad, has surpassed Civil War and how much it's earned worldwide. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Doesn't make it a good movie. It doesn't improve. It doesn't improve the quality just because you sold more. I mean, it sold well, and that's good. And we shouldn't. I shouldn't. No one should hate on DC's success. But I think that there is something that is longer term that is important in what you're building as a company, and that's what I always say. I do think that Disney is looking far longer term than Warner's is right now. I think Warner's is still very much stuck in that individual product line, and what do we keep doing? How do we keep on making these shows? And what's our next step? How do we move more product out the door? Whereas, I think Disney, Marvel is, because of course, that's the thing, is Disney is a company that is still selling materials from movies they made in the 40s, and okay, so I guess we just keep on talking till the next people show up. Okay. So we're vamping. But Disney is still making, Disney is still making money off of Snow White. Disney is still making money off of Cinderella and Dumbo and Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Now Mickey Mouse does get refreshed every couple of decades, so Mickey Mouse is still an active character. But the fact of the matter is that Disney isn't looking at things of, oh, what if what if we aren't the dominant sales force? They say, well, how can we make a product that's going to last? And I think that's what really makes the Marvel films, because they get that critical acclaim. And what the point of critical acclaim is on top of the ticket sales, because all these movies are making their money back. I mean, that's sort of the thing. It's like when you do a genre piece like this, you're probably going to make your money back, unless you totally Fantastic Four it up. Unless you're making this really awful film that you spent too much money on, you're going to make your money back because the fan base is there. They're rabid, they're strong, and they want to be in the mix. But the question is how do you make something that lasts? And here's the thing: I don't know if 10 years from now people are going to be looking at Suicide Squad and saying, "Oh yeah, remember Suicide Squad? That was like the best." I think people are going to remember some great scenes in there, and certainly Harley Quinn and the Joker are very memorable from that. And I'm sure the Harley Quinn film is going to be fantastic, that Margot Robbie is going to be producing, as I understand it. But I think that, and I think Warner's understands that. I think because they are saying, we kind of made a misstep, hitching our star to Zack Snyder. And and I don't know if it's fair to even blame Zack Snyder for that. I think it's just the problem wasn't Zack Snyder so much as maybe, and then, like I said, and it's hard to say that any of these things were failures because they all made money, But as I always say, they made money, but they also, you didn't feel like, you walk out of something like Winter Soldier, you walk out of something like Civil War. Hopefully when you walk out of Doctor Strange, you're going to be walking out of there feeling like you had a real experience of this movie. Like walking out of Guardians of the Galaxy, which was in many ways a very pop and formulaic, space opera. But I think when you walked out of Guardians, you were like, wow, that was what a movie should be. You weren't worried about whether or not it was going to dominate the box office. You just enjoyed it. It was something that was fun to watch and fun to be a part of and fun to experience. And I think that when you walk out of Suicide Squad, I mean, if you're a big nerd, then you're like, oh, that was awesome. Because it did have a lot of awesomeness to it. And same with Batman versus Superman. It had a lot of awesomeness to it. But I don't think you walked away feeling like, I think that, when you walk out of a DC movie, if you liked it, you feel like you have to explain why.
Is it just too much catch up? Did DC come late to the game, and now they're trying to get where Marvel's at now, but they're not. They don't want to put in the years. They want to be right where Marvel's at right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely think that's part of the problem, and I think that. And as I've always said, I really think one of their biggest problems is that they have their big name superheroes. And, and this is, like I said, to me, this is what the big problem with Suicide Squad was. They wanted to make it as a Batman film. And that's fine because Deadshot is a Batman villain, but they realized that they were only going to have Batman in a couple scenes. And they needed something that was going to be as visually iconic as Batman, and Deadshot just wasn't it. Now, honestly, Deadshot could have been that. They could have tried to make Deadshot happen. For whatever reason, they didn't. And they decided to go back and double down on Harley and Joker, which was fine. I think people loved Harley and Joker, but they wound up not being part of the script. They wound up not being with what the story was supposed to be. And so as they're presenting it, it winds up being these things which, oh, that's so great. Oh, that's so great. But how does that tie over to the overall story? How do we get back to what the story is, And that was the problem. And I think the problem was that Warner's got worried that they were making this film that all this was riding on, especially after Batman v Superman. And then they realized, and we don't have it. And exactly what happened isn't clear either. Because was it that, they were making like I always said, this was supposed to be the Will Smith vehicle. This was supposed to be the Deadshot movie. And then they cast Margot Robbie. And then Margot Robbie is a very interesting character. She's playing a very beloved character. And I think that people started wanting to put more of her in there, and then wanting to put more of and then of course you have to put more Joker in. And then you wind up overwriting your Joker scenes, and then you have to cut all of your Joker stuff that you just wrote because it doesn't progress your overall story. Where's the next shift?
Well, we could stop because they said they can even live stream the stuff that's going on live at the Blue Box right now. So
okay. I can't read and talk at the same time. Okay, so you know what, kids? This has been more than enough from us this week. We're gonna go right to the Blue Box with our ongoing podcast marathon. Thank you for connecting with us, folks, and connect with us again. Good night.